Welcome to Remember 64, where this week we crumble buildings one crazy vehicle at a time. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is David Petrangelo, and oh boy, I hope that missile isn't coming any closer. Oh god. Oh no. Quick, get to the giant robot, or the bulldozer, or anything before it's too late. Yes, that's just somewhat of a vague quip in reference to the level 19 game Blast Corps. My acting is just impeccable. You're welcome. A new guest will be joining the show momentarily, so thankfully it's not just me that's going to be talking. We will be talking about the game, and I am very, very excited for it. Just before that, though, a quick, enthusiastic thumbs up from us here at Remember 64. We are now part of the Tokyo Beat Network, a great network of podcasts like ours that are growing and expanding. More to come in the near future, but Tokyo Beat Network, check us out online and all the great shows that are associated with it. As well, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/Remember64show. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us shape the show going forward for games that we'll be playing in the future. You can get episodes early, and you can hear us talk about games we're playing away from the Nintendo 64 console. If not, and additionally, you can also toss us a rating on your podcast app of choice. Spotify and Apple are the first ones that come to mind. Not only do we appreciate a nice rating, but also we appreciate just hearing from you. Okay, let's bust out the history books, everyone.
I'm learning.
It's time to head back to March of 1997. March 3rd. The Howard Stern radio show premieres on North Carolina Public Radio. On the 10th, Buffy the Vampire Slayer premieres. And on the 25th, Life After Death, the second Notorious B.I.G. album, is released. Alright, if you haven't played Blast Corps, here's the conceit of the game. We'll get to it a little bit in a few moments, but you take control of a series of vehicles and giant robots that crush buildings on each individual level. Why? Well, instead of a traditional clock that's going to count you down until the stage is over, there's a missile carrier headed to the end of a set path, and it's your job to get pesky skyscrapers, barns, storage units out of the way to save the day. That's basically it. There's not much of a story there. But how did Rare get this early N64 title off the ground, and why this particular idea? Well, it was the first and one of many that helped launch the console into stardom, Rare's first foray into the N64. In an interview with Now Gamer back in 2009, lead Rare designer at the time, Martin Wakely, said, quote, "During the development of Blast Corps, there were never more than 7 people working on the title at the same time. Most of the time, it was just this core group of 4 of us who were mainly graduates. The concept for the game was something that Chris Stamper, the co-founder of Rare, had been trying to get going for years. His famous quote was, 'If you knock down buildings, it will be fun.' Obviously, the challenge for us always was finding a reason to do that. So we came up with what we referred to as the constantly moving object." End quote. Now that's the missile carrier that I mentioned earlier. Martin goes on to add in this interview that many people see Blast Corps as an action game or a puzzle game, but the team wasn't striving for one or the other. They were happy to categorize it in any way gamers felt worked for them. Rare's lead artist at the time, Ricky Berwick, conceptualized and created the robots and vehicles that are used in the game. From there, the team then placed their designs into the gameplay elements and tweaked things accordingly. One fun little tidbit of trivia here in case you ever get a Blast Corps question on Trivial Pursuit or, I don't know, whatever the kids are playing these days. The giant silver robot that's named Thunder Fist. You'll hear us talk about it in a few moments. It rolls around and crashes into structures with like an uppercut. Only has one arm. The reason being is the developers ran out of memory on the cart while making the game. Well, overall, Blast Corps was a huge early hit for Rare and Nintendo. The first game for the console from Rare sold an estimated 1 million copies. Not a top 10, not even a top 20 in sales, but pretty darn well for early 1997. One last fun note about the game as well, it's included in the Rare Replay game compilation that was released a few years ago for Xbox. So you don't necessarily have to find an N64 or a cartridge to play it. You can have this game and many other amazing Rare titles in one place. Honestly, there's so many good ones on this. It's worth the price, even at full price, even if it's not on sale. And just before we get to talking about playing the game itself with our special guest, I want to carve a little bit of Nintendo Power time. Let's head to April of 1997 for Nintendo Power. We have Blast Corps right on the front. Doom 64 is in the corner as well. We have some Game Boy hits that they're talking about, and N64 previews such as Clay Fighter 63 and a third and Dark Rift, and also a whole lot of Turok as well. So Blast Corps is the first main article right at the front here. They have a big breakdown of every single vehicle. They have a couple paragraphs on each. They have the core concept of the game as well. And they show some of the maps, which is really helpful, actually. I kind of wish I used this when I was playing the game. Yeah. Anyways, they show you a decent amount of detail on each one, the different branches you can take on each individual stage, all the buildings that are along the path of the carrier as well. So it's actually really helpful. It's a little bit of a hint game here too. Most of it is just on the easy levels though, and then you have a couple of hints on some of the medium and hard levels. But all right, you don't need to hear from me anymore. Let's get our special guest in here and let's talk Blast Corps.
Check it out.
Trying to impress me.
All right. Yes, of course. It is that time to talk about the game and the N64 with a special guest. This time on this level of the podcast, we have Jake from the Press B to Cancel podcast. Jake, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'll take any opportunity I can to talk about the N64 and especially today's game. I quite like it quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about it. I have a lot of thoughts on it from the past and currently in the last couple of weeks. So before we get to the game itself, let's talk about your experience with the N64 growing up to now. So did you have one? Was it more of like a friend's place type of thing? What kind of library did you have or they have? Let's start from the beginning.
So I like to say that I lost every generation of the console war growing up. Really, like the last winning I had was the NES, and after that, it was just downhill from there. I had Sega Genesis over the SNES. I bought a Dreamcast for some reason, and I never did get a PlayStation. I had the N64. Not that any of the consoles I had were bad consoles, mind you.
No, of course, yeah.
But I mean, we all know the history of the N64 and its library, and it's very expensive carts. So I did have an N64 though, and I loved it. I loved Nintendo's stuff. But I did not have many games. I maybe had 6 titles in total over the lifespan. Up here in Canada, for a while, the carts were really expensive. I remember my uncle bought Turok for me, and it was $120. That's what I remember.
Whoa. Okay. I was just gonna say I saved up some coin for No Mercy because I was really into wrestling right when that was coming out. It was perfect timing. Good thing it was a great game, but for me to personally save up like $90 to $100 was, I mean, that's a lot, right? Like my parents were like, we don't want you to get a wrestling game. It's violent, but something like that, right? I'm assuming that's what the reason was. I actually don't really remember. But to get that much, toonies and loonies and $10 bills together that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, like the 120 is a lot. And I remember he got really upset because 3 months after Turok came out, it dropped to the player's choice tier, and I think it was like 7, something ridiculous.
No.
But that was the problem with the N64 is all the cartridges were at least 90 bucks. And that's why I get a laugh these days when people complain about the cost of games today. Because up here they're still $90. They really haven't made much. So,
yeah, that's what the problem that we run into up here, because we're from the same area, and it's just like it doesn't matter where you are in Canada, really. It's just the price is just a little bit higher on stuff like this.
Yeah.
I think for a while it was pretty even, and then recently it's gone up. I mean, stuff has gone up for everybody, but at the same time, it was like it was an investment, and at that age, when you have something like an N64 or even a Dreamcast or GameCube, whatever generation it would be, even if it was $100 instead of 120, I mean, that's a lot at that time. Like to have, like you said, 6-7 games or something, that's understandable.
Yeah, and like I mean, honestly, if it wasn't your own allowance, how often would you get a game as a gift? Maybe your birthday and Christmas, maybe 2 a year if you're really lucky. For
Yep.
me, it was like 1 game a year. I mean, really, the only console as a kid I got a sizable collection for was the Game Boy, and that's only
Oh
because
yeah.
that thing was out for a decade, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
the games were cheaper.
The
So,
games are a little bit cheaper, and then plus they were all kind of cross-platform. You could play an original Game Boy on your Advance. You can play your Advance on your SP, like things like that. Like all those, I think that's part of the reason why too. But yeah, you can get a game for $40 or $50. That's just literally half the price. Like I still have a lot of those. It's great. Game Boy. The Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Advance. So
well,
good.
yeah, and the backwards compatibility is what really sold me on that, like you just mentioned.
Exactly.
And it's why like when it comes to things like the Switch today and they have the virtual console, I love how N64 is kind of being brought back with that. And I love
Yes.
how they brought back that god awful controller for the Switch. I love it. So I really do love the N64. I know it's not the greatest system out there, but in hindsight, when I look at it today versus the PlayStation, I'd rather play N64. I think it holds up better than the PlayStation titles.
Yeah, I agree. I had friends, a couple friends that had an N64, a couple of friends that had a PlayStation. It was pretty spread out between my friends group in the area, and yeah, I think would revisit whether I was doing this podcast or not. I think it would be an easier console to revisit. I don't know if it's because I just have more memories playing Mario Party and Mario Kart and
Yeah.
Smash and stuff with friends or whatever, but it's a good difference in games. It's good to sort of revisit both, but there's something about that 64. I don't know if it's just
Yeah.
it's unfair because it's nostalgia and it's like I had it, so I love it more. But
Yeah.
a game like this, like we're talking about Blast Corps, and honestly, like I have very little experience with this game coming into this. I remember it, but not very well. So you were pretty excited. This was your suggestion, and I was more than happy to say yes to it. Why this game?
I don't wanna call it a hidden gem because I think back in the day, it sold really well, and it was definitely well reviewed.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the N64 titles today and you mention something like Blast Corps, most folks don't even know of the game, probably because it never got a sequel. This is entirely
Mm,
a one-off game from Rare, which is disappointing because it's a very unique title. And I remember I rented it as a kid from the Blockbuster, when that was still around, and I liked it enough that I went out and bought it. That's how much I
mm.
loved the game.
Wow, the rental system worked on you. Look at
It totally is. The system works once in a while,
that. Once in a
but
while.
it's just one of those games where in a rental in a weekend, I couldn't beat it, right? There's just
Mm,
enough hidden stuff, enough stages, and then there was medals and time trials and that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
it kind of hooked me to want to play it more. And I had been burned in the past with some N64 titles. There are some great games in the N64, but there are some that are not so great. So to
Absolutely.
avoid getting burned, I used to rent them. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is one I liked, and I liked it a lot. And now in hindsight, Rare is such a great company,
Oh,
and they put out mostly stellar titles. I don't think they've done many stinkers.
yeah. When you look at their library on the N64 specifically, like it's to me like this is their console. Like this,
Yeah,
they elevated this console, I think, to another level, especially in that mid range. You got Banjo Kazooie. I mean, even this was the first one that they did. But you have GoldenEye, you have Perfect Dark, you have
yeah,
the Banjo Kazooie series, like that. That's enough. All you need is
yeah,
just like two or three of those, and you'd be like, well, these are system sellers because they just
yeah.
are. And this was the first one they did. When I was researching the game and sort of how and when it was made and everything, like this was put together in a year. This game, like that
Oh, was
is
it really? Okay.
speedy. That is
Yeah,
crazy. Very impressive with what they did. Like you just mentioned, there's all these like hidden things, whether you're renting it or owning it. It's not a grind. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a grind in this because there's enough variety where you don't feel like you're always doing the exact same thing over. There's enough different stuff in different areas, but like, yeah, this is not a game that would be easily completed. I mean, I went through it over the last couple of weeks and I didn't fully complete it. I unlocked every level, but I definitely didn't hit like the 100% mark on it. It's very interesting.
you know what I like to do for when I do these kind of episodes? I like to look at the speed runs to see
Oh
what the
yeah.
speed run records are, just to make myself feel insignificant when it comes to playing games. And the 100% speed run for this game, 100%. So all levels, all stages, gold or sorry, platinum on everything.
Right.
It was an hour and 30 minutes.
Come on.
I know. It probably took me 30, 40 hours when I was a kid to get gold on all the stages. Because if you
Sure,
get
sure.
gold everywhere, you unlock a bunch of bonus stages at the end of the game. So that's what I did. But yeah, it's it's wild to me.
Hour and oh my god. I
Yeah.
think looking at this game on the surface, you'd be like, okay, yeah, a couple hours. I could see that. I could see you like, if you're really good at it, you and played this a lot when you're younger and stuff, or had this a game that you rented all the time. Yeah, okay, sure. In a couple hours, realistically, from start to finish, sure, you could do something like that. But then you play it and you go, and it's not that because it's bad. It's not because it's like some terrible experience, but it's just I I I I can't. I can't. There's no way. An hour and a half is wild to me. That's insane.
Yeah, I watched it earlier today, and just to see him fly through the levels, because like that was the thing as a kid, is each of the vehicles is feels quite a bit different and is used differently. And you
Yes.
had to master them to get the gold medals on every stage. And
Hmm.
a lot of those vehicles, well, there's maybe two that are very tricky. Do you want to talk about the vehicles
Yeah,
actually?
I wanted to get into that for sure. One,
Yeah.
let's talk about them sort of, as we go, and then we can sort of discuss why they're some might be our favorites or not. So yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Right. So I mean, it's in Blast Corps. I guess the basic story is that you're a demolition crew, and there's this nuclear missile for some reason that
So
is on its way moving across everything in its path. And if you don't clear the debris and people and buildings out of the way, it explodes. That's the story.
yeah, essentially, it's just like a slow moving nuke, and
Yeah,
I guess they don't have the keys to the truck, and they can't get the guy out of the driver's seat, like so they have to
yeah,
destroy buildings. Like I don't know. I guess that's the story.
yeah. Like my daughter watched me play it this weekend. She's like, "How come they just don't stop the truck?"
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
it's video game things, honey. It doesn't need to make sense.
Why does the whole truck and world blow up when just the bumper taps a fence? Why is that?
I know. I don't even know if you can touch it as your little guy because you're a little man in the game.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
then you
you know
go
what? I
into
never
these
tried that.
vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder why can't you just hop in the truck anyway?
Yeah. I mean, you
So
can
there
get out
are
of your own vehicle.
yeah, I know. So there are different vehicles in the game that you use to basically destroy buildings. And it
Yeah.
starts off, kind of cliche with a bulldozer, basically. They all have weird, funky names. I think they call it the Ram Dozer, but it's just a fast bulldozer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it gets into something like was it called the Backlash, which is a dump truck. Now it's interesting because the dump truck bulldozer, you just fly into things. The dump truck, if you bump into stuff, yeah, you damage it a little bit. But the mechanic for that one is you have to build with speed, and then you have to go into a controlled outless slide and flip your back around to back into things quickly. It's very tough. It was
It
tough
is.
on the N64 controller. On a
Yeah.
modern controller, it's even worse because I don't know what the hell the buttons are. But it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So that's the other thing. Actually, that reminds me. I played this a little bit with an N64 controller, and I went, oh wait, I have Game Pass, and Rare Replay is on Game Pass. I'm gonna see what it's like on that. And I played
Okay.
with an Xbox. So I played most of this through that experience through Rare Replay because it was just easy, and I was like, okay, I got the
Yeah.
Xbox on right in front of me anyway. Honestly, the experience is very very similar. I think control wise, you use A and X on the Xbox controller to sort of do your abilities, quote unquote abilities, or you can use the triggers. And that's pretty much it. And the
Okay.
joystick. Like there's really not much. And then the right joystick is your C buttons. That's essentially it.
Okay.
So you can press down C, up C, and whatever. And there's not a whole lot to controls in this game. So it really didn't feel like I was not getting the real experience. But yeah, so that one is honestly like I understand the idea and why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called backlash. That's exactly what it is. So I understand why you want to do something like that. It is interesting. It's an interesting concept, but in execution, unless you are like very close to being perfect on every time you whip that vehicle around, it's just insanely frustrating. It is. Those
Yeah.
are by far the worst levels, if you want to call it that. Like they just are.
And like if you want to get the 100% to unlock the bonus stages in the game, you have to get gold medals with all the backslash stages. And
Yeah.
I remember the very first one, it's kind of a time trial, and I think you need to get like under 20 seconds or something
Oh
stupid.
my
And I
god.
remember as a kid that taking me several hours of practice to get right. I did not have the patience for it. I tried the last few weeks, but as a kid, I definitely did it. But yeah, it's out of all the vehicles, it was the most annoying. The rest are
Yeah,
really great though, right? Like you have
they are.
there's like mechs. There's two different mechs. One is like a flying thing, pilot wings or something.
Yeah, there's one Thunder Fist, which is hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, he does like a roll to break buildings, which is
And
a
then he
lot of
like
fun to play with.
uppercuts essentially, like
Yes. Yeah. Dragon Punch. Yeah.
yeah,
That's really
Dragon Punch.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, those ones are kind of cool because they almost look the same. And then one
Yeah.
of them, I found this actually to be so that guy rolls and sort of like uppercuts buildings and stuff. I found the other guy really funny because I didn't look ahead of time what all of these vehicles did and how they worked. I just sort of turned the game on and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of remember a couple of these. The bulldozers, fair enough. That's simple. Little RC car looking thing. I was like, okay, I get that idea. That's kind of interesting. Um, but the other robot, I gotta find the exact which one it is. Not
Yeah, I don't
J
remember its
Bomb,
name.
Cyclone suit, which can destroy medium-sized at the time of summer. Yeah, okay, yes, it's Cyclone suit. So essentially, I was like, oh, maybe this guy's just gonna roll, or maybe he's gonna like dive forward with a fist or something. Nope, he decides to do gymnastics everywhere, and he's just zipping and bopping around, and he's just like, he just really wants to be a gymnast, and that's the ability. It's like it's
Yeah,
so funny.
it's bizarre to me. Like for a game that's based around demolition crews and construction equipment, then they just throw in mechs for some reason.
Yeah.
Like I watched a behind the scenes video on Rare's YouTube earlier this week, and one of the vehicles they had considered was like a scorpion type robot thing, where you would
Oh,
go into the crotch. The crotch is where the cockpit was.
of
Did not
course.
make the final cut, but it just weird enough where I'm like, that could have been there. That could have worked.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you got these ones, you can just.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no reason for like any of these in particular to be different. It's just for the variety, and that's fine. It doesn't have you don't have to have some big deep story for a somersaulting robot, but like if it's a scorpion, all right, cool, fine. It's going to whip its tail or it's going to clip the buildings and stuff. Sure, I
yeah.
could see that. Yeah, why not?
Imagine how
Yeah,
different Pacific Rim would have been if these are the mechs. The gymnast robot would be in Pacific Rim. The kaiju wouldn't have stood a chance. Like
they
it's
would
wild.
have no chance, no
Yeah,
chance whatsoever. I mentioned this earlier in the episode, the part that we were not recording together, but for the Thunder Fist guy, the guy that rolls and does the uppercut punch, only has one arm. And
yeah.
I don't know if you know why, but he has one
No.
arm because they specifically they ran out of memory on the cartridge. So they had to design him without a second arm. That's the reason why he looks like that. And you know what? As
Wow.
funny as it is, at least they did something. At least they did something.
Yeah, I mean, at least they had. I mean, the alternative would be to have one less vehicle in the game. So that's crazy. That's wild that they ran out of polygons and triangles to get that thing to fit.
Yeah.
That's wild. I will say, like that's one of the reasons why I do like this game is that the environments are pretty varied. Look pretty good even today. You
Mm-hmm.
get quite a variety of buildings to destroy and fences and all kinds of stuff. There's hills and water. It's a pretty detailed map. It's pretty good.
Yeah, each level definitely is different enough from the previous or the next one. Like they're not
Yeah,
sure. Some of the colors or textures might be the same or similar, but that's what you're going to get from a
yeah,
early 97 early N64 game. That's just the way it is, right? That's totally
right.
fine. But they don't look bad. They don't look muddy. They don't look undetailed or anything. You can tell where you're going, what you're doing. And once those arrows start pointing at those buildings, that's why. Like you're
Yeah,
good. You got it, right? It's fairly straightforward as far as that goes, but I do like the fact that every time you go into it, and some of the levels you can choose which vehicle you want and stuff, and some of them you can just you can zip from one to another, you can walk from other ones, but all of that is part of the variety, and the level themselves are like these mini hub worlds almost in a way,
yeah.
which are fun. I like them a lot.
It's neat because it actually hides some vehicles too. There's some vehicles like mundane cars, right? There's
Yeah.
cars. There's like a American flag covered car, and there's an A-team van for some reason.
I couldn't figure out how to get to that thing. I saw the 18 van. I was like, how do I get to this thing? I was like, I drove around it on top of the cliff, and I was like, Mr. T, where are you, man? Like, help me out.
If
Like, where
if I
are
remember
you?
right, there's like a hidden tunnel, I think, to get to it is what it
There,
was. It's been
I
a
would
while.
assume there was because I tried to throw my vehicle over the edge and it was just like hitting a wall every time, and it's
Yeah.
just anyway. But yeah, no, that's true. There's all that, and then another part of it too, a part of the presentation, the fact that it still kind of holds up, like you're saying, the way things look is there's a lot of like cinematic parts of it too. So like there's some levels where you'll start in a train, for example. I think these are like in the
Right.
medium and hard levels, and you're in the train from the start and you're driving across the tracks on these bridges, and it's sort of the camera sort of like turns a little bit and you can kind of see the missile truck in the
Yeah.
distance on its own bridge, and I was like, oh, this is great, this is so cool. It's not just a behind the vehicle view and you just go for it. It's actually showing you and giving you perspective on things, which they really don't have to do. They can just give you
Yeah.
a path to follow, and they really try and make and give you a sense of the space that you're in. And I think that is excellent. And I was very surprised. I didn't expect that at all, and I thought it was a welcome surprise for sure.
I really like how too when you get near the nuke, or if you use the camera to do the pull up the bird cam, it has that sound along with the nuke that I can't reproduce it, but there's like this nuclear hum sound. Whenever you're close to it and you hear that sound, then when you get close, even closer, and you see it on the screen, it's awe-inspiring. It's terrifying because you know
Yeah.
how close you are to losing that stage if you don't hurry up and take some buildings down. But whenever you have to, sometimes the stage will get you to get close to it for driving past it, and it's
Yeah.
always interesting atmosphere. It's really a really well done atmosphere and theme to the game with how they did that nuke. It's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I think so. Like like we were joking before. Why? I don't know, but it's just happening. So now deal with the situation. But at least the situation is not throwaway. Like they're trying to do
Yeah.
something with it. At least. The only other one of the other funny things that I don't quite understand is all the little like characters that pop up on your screen. Like, who are these people and why is one of them
Yeah.
like a hillbilly and the other one's just some girl that's cheering you on? Like, I don't understand who they are and why they're there, but they are.
Time to keep moving. I hope this works.
You ran away or something? Nice work.
Apparently, there is a comic for this. I never did track it down to read it, but that's
Oh,
apparently is video games back then. If you want the story, you got to read the manual or you got to read the in game comic book.
right.
The thing that stands out for me is because the N64 was never great with like full motion video,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to remodel those characters, so it's all pre rendered poorly. Like the character models, the eyes and the lady feel like they're bulging out of her head. Maybe it looked different as a kid on a CRT, but on a modern TV, it looks terrifying. Those models. Like I'm glad there's voice in the game, and I'm glad they do some
Hmm.
stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. They don't really explain much in the way of plot of how important they are to the story, or if they're. I mean, they're not really relevant. Like even at the end of the game with the bonus stages, they try and throw in some lore bits at the end, but it's mostly
Hmm.
tongue in cheek, pointing at like, have you? How far did you make it?
Yeah, so I made it to so according to Rare Replay, and I was just checking to see like there's like an achievement mini achievement list for each game, and I got 85% of the way through the game.
Okay.
I don't think that includes like the amount of medals that I got or like level of medals. Like I don't think that means I got 85% gold or platinum or anything, because I really don't think I got any platinums. I think I just completed every level and got a decent amount of golds and then just sort of moved on. So I think I reached 85% of the levels, and I think that also includes however many bonus stages I unlocked along the way.
Okay. Do you want me to mention the ending? Is spoilers a
Yeah,
problem
yeah,
for a 30 year
go
old
for it.
game?
Because honestly, there's a couple of hard stages that I honestly don't think I'm going to be able to beat. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. So the neat thing is, like, after you've beaten all the stages on the globe,
Yeah.
then it's like you've the nuke has been saved. It's made it through the cities. Everybody's happy, and then it gives you like a text crawl, basically saying, "Oh, the blast corps can now take a long deserved vacation until next time." And then all of a sudden, it flashes an alert, and it's like, a shuttle in space is crash landing, and you have to go clear a city for the landing wave, or it's going to people are going to die. So then that's your mission. You have to stop. You have to bulldoze these buildings so that the shuttle lands. And you're like,
No
oh,
way.
that's a cool ending
That's
mission. That's
great.
cool.
That's
And then
great.
it's like text crawl, and then blast corps. They can now take their well deserved holiday. They can rest. And then it says if you got all the gold medals,
Yeah.
then it's like now we're going to the moon. There's a lot of debris on the moon. from years of space travel, you need to go there and clean up for some reason. It even in tongue in cheek is like going with this narrative. The Blast Corps goes to the moon, and you do the moon, and you're bulldozing all the crap on the moon. And I think if you have all the gold medals, I believe you can go to like Mars, Venus, Neptune. There's a few different
Are you
outer space levels.
wow?
Yeah, it's wild as a kid. So it was gold medals, and you have to find 6 scientists on the Earth. There's like in the stages, there's 6 hidden
There's
scientists. That's
hidden,
what it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah, so you 100% it, then you get these space stages where the gravity is different, and it's just bizarre. It's
That is
really cool.
amazing.
Yeah, it's really funny, and the story is all kind of like the rocket has served you well, the Blast Corps, as you're on the planets, but now you're going to come back to Earth, and it's really stupid. But they know it's stupid, and they just go
Right.
with it for the bonus
Right.
stages.
Well,
love
I
that.
appreciate
That's
that.
great.
That's
Yeah.
man. Okay, so who cares if Thunderfist only has one arm? You get to go to the moon and Mars and save the Earth a couple times. There's a missile.
Yeah.
Oh man, no wonder they ran
pretty
out of
funny.
space.
There's a lot on this cart. There really is.
Wow,
There's
I
a
did
quite
not
a bit
know any of that
content.
stuff. That is awesome. That is awesome, really. I mean, it just goes to show you the ambition that Rare has with its games. Like, this is early new technology Rare. You know, it's not like they didn't have games before this. They had lots. Rare Replay is a perfect example of all the games that they had previous to this. I think there's at least 10 that you could play that are from the early 90s to mid 90s. And, you know, it just shows that this studio from the start was looking to do stuff that was different and fun, and knew that if it was ridiculous, like you're saying, at least it didn't take itself too seriously, because you could very easily make something about a nuke and destroying buildings and saving people very serious, and then just keep it at that. And it kind of presents itself that way a little bit, but yeah, with the little comments of the characters and the fact that you, like you said, they go to other planets and stuff. That's excellent. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really polished game, and like you said, Rare rarely does wrong. Honestly, I look at the PlayStation titles. There's a lot of shovelware on the PlayStation, like titles that you can see were rushed out. Not to say N64 doesn't have its bad games; it certainly does. But I feel there's more terrible titles on the PS than there is on the N64.
Yeah,
And it's great to have a title like this one, where again, it's so unique, and I don't think I've seen anything remotely close to the concept of bulldozing buildings for stopping this thing, a nuke. It's like part puzzle game. There's action, destruction. Like, I mean, do you remember in the PC? I mean, before there was Minecraft, right? There was, what was that? Oh, Red something. There's a
Red
first-person
Faction.
shooter. Red
Yeah, Red
Faction. Had
Faction.
destructible
Yeah.
terrain and stuff.
Oh,
That was like the big thing on PC shooters. Meanwhile, you look at the N64. N64 had destructible buildings before all that. So it's really cool. It's kind of ahead of its time, and I'm surprised with things like Red Faction and that technology coming out on PC. How come we didn't get anything similar to Blast Corps? I'm really surprised this didn't get a sequel.
Well, and you know what's cool too is, like, even if this sequel came on the GameCube, or when, you know, the Xbox and PS2 and PS3 generations came around, like, oh, you know, that, you know, even more recently, like, you know, Rare is owned by Microsoft and Xbox at this point. They could make a game like this, and all the breaking down of the buildings isn't just big chunks of polygons like they are in this, which, you know, it's totally fine. It's not a negative against it, but that's just what the tech was at the time. Now you could, like, really get into the details of, like, how you want to chip these away, which those Red Faction titles, like you said, do in some of them. From, I think the last one was like 10 years ago or something, at least.
Yeah, it's been a while.
They do that, but you could do it with these, like, crazy cool tech, robots and vehicles and whatever. Like, they could do a lot with it. They could bring this back. They could revive this game and this series, and just, you know, it doesn't have to be a 2. It can just be Blast Corps, and that's it. And they could do so much with this, and it would be so cool. It would look amazing. It could be stylized, or it could be realistic. I think either way it would actually work, because you could just do more with the environments and with the buildings themselves, for sure. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, like, normally I don't like the idea of rebooting everything, but this is a game that it kind of makes sense. The story was not the strongest thing of it. The gameplay was, and there's been nobody doing gameplay like this in years, ever. So I'd love to see a remake of this or a reboot of this. It's interesting. Forget Donkey Kong. Give me Blast Corps, Rare. I'm done with Donkey Kong.
No, the Donkey Kong. Yeah, I think you're onto something, because there's a thirst out there, I think, over the last several years, really, There's lots of indie games that look and feel like old games, but they have new mechanics. This
Yeah.
could look like a new game, feel a little bit newer than what it was, and then also just not really quote unquote care too much about the story and just give you the game, and it would feel like you're playing an old game, but it would also look and feel a little bit new. And I think that we're the perfect generation for that, right? Anyone that's in their 30s and 40s, this is exactly the type of experience that they're looking for every once in a while with all these other big titles around it. So I think we're onto something, man. I'm not going to I won't steal the idea, but I think you should call up Microsoft and be like, hey guys, guess what? I got something.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to tweet Phil and ask him, hey, I got this idea for you. I got this pitch. What else is Rare doing these days? They ain't doing anything else. Perfect
Nothing,
Dark,
man.
That's not good. No, it's also a concept that this still holds up gameplay wise. Like I said, I did play this with my girls several times, and they had fun with it. Right? It's a game that even kids can still play and have fun with it. But some of the later stages are certainly challenging. So it's definitely a universal appeal to this title.
Yeah, amazing. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate it for coming on, and thank you for suggesting this game, because I had a great time with it. Later stages, like you said, I think the difficulty ramps up quite a bit, but on the way there, and even in those stages, it was a good time. So I appreciate the suggestion. I had fun, and it's another game I'm happy to revisit when I had very little experience. Before I let you go, though, Jake, where can people find your good stuff online?
Sure. I am also on a video game podcast called Press B to Cancel. We're a retro games podcast. What are the odds? You can find us at pressbtocancel.com, or you can find us on YouTube. We stream live on Friday evenings at 8:30 EST, or you can find us on all your favorite podcast apps for the audio episodes. You can find me personally. I kind of gave up on Twitter, but you can find me on Mastodon or on TikTok, SickJake, SICJAKE.
Amazing. Check out their stuff. Such a good show. You guys have been going, I think at this point, as of this recording, over 130 episodes. So you guys are kicking butt right now. I most recently pressed play on your Wolfenstein episode. If FPS games and old school games like that are your thing, especially if you're listening to a retro game podcast like this, that's one of the ones that are standouts so far. So great stuff. Keep it up. And Jake, thanks again for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. This has been great.
What a pleasure to have such an awesome guest once again on Remember 64. Just an abundance of riches when it comes to our guests that we've had over the course of the show. Again, check their stuff out. Press B to Cancel podcast. Awesome listen out there with those group of guys. But before we let you go, I just wanted to say, shoot us a rating on your podcast app of choice. Apple, Spotify, I know for sure they have them. Good Pods is a great place to find us as well. If you don't want to toss us any money or can't on Patreon, not a big deal. Shoot us a rating and tell your friends. Give us a thumbs up, a star rating, whatever it is. Always much appreciated. Until that time, though, you can find us at Remember 64 Show across all those social media apps of choice as well, including TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We're also on Hive. Mastodon might happen at some point. We'll see how things go. Twitter is an interesting situation at the end of 2022 as of this recording. So anyways, find us there at Remember 64 Show. Easiest place to find us across the internet. But thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. We'll see you soon as we cover our next game. And until next time, stay pixelated, my friends.